Let's jump right in. Liam, you've got your podcast hat on.
Yes, I do. This is a gift from the last marathon I ran this past week, which is a great segue into talking about this marathon that I ran this past week.
About as good as it gets.
Maybe I wore it on purpose. Um, yeah, exactly. Yeah, so it's a very useful hat. For those of you who cannot see the video, it covers a decent amount around my head, so it gives me sun protection, which is very important in Vietnam. I ran the Tin Phong Marathon this past weekend. It is my favorite marathon of my life. Um, I ran it once 2 years ago, the first day I came to Vietnam. I know that's a big statement. One day I'll talk about the first time I ran it. Long story short, 8 hours in a bus, ended up new country, new place, got tetanus. Funny story. I'll tell you about that one day. But today I will not be talking about any of that. I'll be talking about this year's edition. So this is a very interesting race where it's a big newspaper company and it's a very big, like high budget race, but they change the location every year. So they choose usually, I guess, economically struggling city or region, and they go to a place where even Vietnamese people rarely go to. And they host a race there and kind of boost some tourism to bring some money in for local people. Lots of businesses come out, and it's a great time. And with that, it's really interesting because they choose a city that has not, it's not a lot of a running culture, so there's no big races. So it's the only time people can come out and cheer. So it's so fun to just take pictures of everyone. Everyone's so positive. In other places, you might think they're angry that the roads are blocked and they're like, what is this thing? We don't know what a marathon is. Why are people blocking my road? I need to go to work. Not that at all here. Everyone just sits there, just laughs, has a great time. Probably 20 minutes of my race time was actually just running, stopping running and taking pictures of kids who wanted high fives and high-fiving people. And I brought my flute this time as well, and I was playing it. It was a huge hit. I ended up having to stop and dance a lot of times. It was so fun. It was one of the best environments ever. When I did this race 2 years ago as well, even though it was a different city, the vibe was amazing like that. So definitely recommend it. Um, Speaking of the flute, one of the personal highlights for me this time is there was another racer dressed up as Spider-Man. I didn't know at the time, but he cramped up really bad and just was not having a good day. And there was a viral video of him lying on the ground, people helping him with his cramps, and he trying to run and just can't. Well, I didn't know this, but I saw him and I was passing him, and I thought I was funny. Now I feel kind of bad, but I had my flute, and as I was passing him, a dinosaur with sandals and a flute, I was playing do 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 do.
My spider cramps are killing
Yeah,
me.
exactly. That's exactly what he was feeling, I'm sure. And yeah, so that was a fun time. It's been memed all over Facebook. People have been posting a video of Spider-Man cramping on the ground, and yeah, I do feel bad for him. Um, but yeah, lots of good vibes like that. The race itself um, is a very big race. I mentioned it, 5K, 10K, half and full, and it's also the qualifiers to compete at the Southeast Asia Games. So one unfortunate thing is for the people very competitive in the 5 and 10K, they kind of had to weave around a lot of walkers in the half marathon. And I saw one famous runner, her career is running. She's won this race every year for the past 6 years for the 5K. I think like 16 minutes, 20 seconds. Amazing runner. I felt like I was seeing a celebrity, but I saw her like waving like cars, help move these people out of the way, move these people out of the way, because this is her career and just qualified. She won anyways, but still, I think in that case it was a bit stressful. Another interesting thing about planning, it's about 5K in, since we start at 4:30 a.m. About 5K in, we went on a street and there were no lights. Like the street had no street lights. So they had like a soldier every 30 meters with a flashlight, a very weak flashlight. And that was it. It was really dark. And for the first 10K, I think, 8 or 10K, all the water stations were out of water by the time I got there. So it's a very good thing that I mentioned in the last video. I started eating watermelons because at 8K I finally had a watermelon. But some local people, they were actually letting people come into their house and drink water. And at one point, I also shared a cup that maybe 50 people had used before me. So for being such a big race, that was kind of surprising. Every year there's some kind of accident, but yeah, that was now it's funny. I'm sure a lot of people weren't happy, but yeah, overall great time. And because the city really just opens for this race, I found the morning of, I still didn't have a place to stay. I was going to stay in a 24-hour coffee place, but I found a post on Facebook saying for about $6 or $7, I could stay in like a dorm for high school students, but the high school students weren't there at the season or something. They were opening up to the runners. So I just said, okay, I'll go there. And I went there, and there was even a free dinner. I didn't know that till after I got there. It's delicious, so cheap. And it was so fun to just be in a room of all runners. So we all went to the start line together, and everybody was there. Everybody was there was Vietnamese except for me. So it was pretty funny when they opened the door as a joke. Someone said, "안녕하세요." He didn't see who was coming in or anything. And then it was actually a Vietnamese man who used to live in Korea. So when I walked in and I said "안녕하세요" back, he was very surprised. And yeah, we actually got to bond over that. And it's a really, really great race to meet people. And that's just kind of what I want to mention from all of that.
Wow. Sounds like a blast,
Yeah,
except for
it
Spider-Man.
definitely was.
Uh,
Except for Spider-Man.
what's the name of the race?
It's called Tin Phong, Tien space Phong. They have like Tin Phong bookstore, Tin Phong newspaper,
Mm,
probably some other things. And yes, this was in Guangxi province in Dongha City, which is in the
where is
middle
that
of Vietnam.
geographically?
About 3 or 4 hour train ride north of Da Nang, where I was for the race last
Okay.
week.
So in between the north and the middle,
Yeah,
kind of like almost halfway in between.
yes. Yeah, yeah, or still very much a lot closer to the middle, I think.
Okay.
Um, but also with that, not that hot. It was raining a little bit, beautiful weather for running. So overall, I'd say it was a great time.
And it was a half marathon?
This is a full.
Full marathon, okay.
They do have a half, but I did the full.
And they ran out of water at what point?
The very beginning, up until about 8 or 10K.
There was water,
So
and
I
then there
had
was
to
no water.
change my plan a lot. At 12K, there was finally some water. And of course, a lot of people weren't happy. Um, but if it's not your job, if your career is not to run marathons, you gotta just adjust and count your losses. Well, it's not your loss, I don't know. But they would say, okay, there's not a lot of water. I'm gonna go slower. I'm not gonna play as much flute, also because it's pitch black. I can barely see the road. And it was yeah, those kind of safety concerns. But overall, I do strongly recommend this race, especially if you're not Vietnamese. It's a really good chance to really connect with Vietnamese people, and even the one other foreigner who was not wearing a costume. When people would see him, they would swarm him and take pictures with him because, like, oh, it's someone from a different country, so exciting. And then after that, when the dinosaur passed by, the kids went crazy. So yeah, I definitely recommend it.
It's a dinosaur from another country. And you said it's going to be in a different place each year. So how do you know where it is the
Yes.
next year?
So maybe 6 or 7 months before the race, they announce it.
Mm.
Okay, maybe even about maybe September, October, they announce it. And as soon as they announce it, if you're interested, that is when you should book hotel.
Mm.
Because they usually choose a small place which doesn't have a lot of hotels, but they have
Yeah.
like 10,000 runners, so that's awkward.
Yeah, a little bit of a logistic challenge there.
Yeah, but overall a good time and very reminiscent of my first trip ever to Vietnam.
Mm. Well, I'm glad you found a place to stay that wasn't a 24-hour coffee shop.
Me too. Me too.
For this past weekend, I also did a race and I had some new experiences. We'll start with that. So this was, as you call it, a light trail run, kind of halfway in between trail and road. And it was in Beijing, in the outskirts of Beijing, so way up in the north. I took a taxi there. It took like maybe 40 minutes. I think it's about 40 kilometers. So pretty far out in the middle of nowhere, but still in Beijing. And I get to the location there are these two red banners saying that this is the place. But other than that, you probably wouldn't be able to tell. And then you go down like a little ramp, and then there's a parking lot, and some people are starting to arrive, but nobody seems to know where to go. You can tell who the runners are just by looking at their shoes. They're all wearing like fluorescent green shoes. And so we're all kind of asking each other, do you know where the actual check-in point is? And nobody knew. Eventually, another person showed up, like a staff volunteer or whatever, showed up and was like, okay, go that way to check in. So my first reaction is you couldn't put a sign that said parking this way, check in that way. But whatever. Maybe it's a new event, who knows? But it was very close to where we were. So we found the check-in spot okay, and then we're still kind of asking each other, like, how do we check in? Where is the physical check-in? And then the staff are just like, oh, just by being here, you're checked in. Okay, whatever. We pick up our race kits, and actually, I picked up my race kit. Most people had theirs the day before because they went to pick it up at a specific spot. So they probably spend a lot of time doing that. Whereas I was like, I'm not going to spend half a Saturday going to pick up my race kit. I'll just grab it on the day of. But then they're like, did you message us to have us put it aside for you? Like, why would I have to do that? But they had it and I got it. So yeah, a few little kinks. And then we got ready to start. It was a pretty small race because it's a trail, right? So they're usually not too huge. This one was, they had a 5K, 10K, and half marathon. And it was about 200 plus 300 people altogether. A half marathon was about 100 plus. We all started at the same time. So we get going, and the scenery is awesome. It's in the Ming tombs area. It doesn't actually look like tombs. There are some pagodas and stuff, but it's mostly just mountains and basically a park. And it was a really nice course, lots of turns and little hills, and flat enough that it wasn't super hard, and hilly enough that it was not boring. And then there was some like grass and some dirt, and then some really steep downhills, and they had people at every corner and on every hill telling you to be careful, don't trip and break your neck. So I'm running, and then I come to the first split in the road. It says 21K forward, 5K, 10K, turn left. Pretty standard operating procedure, right? So I'm going, and then there was one other foreigner, and he passed me at about 7K, and I could tell just by looking at him that he was going to be way faster than me. And by him passing me, I wasn't surprised. What surprised me was why it took him so long to pass me. So I thought maybe he just intentionally got a late start, or maybe he just started off really slow and then picked up around 7K. And then there were a couple other turns, and I made sure I went the right way on all the turns and make sure I didn't fall on any of the downhills. And so far so good. I get around to the beginning, and then with the half marathon, you do 2 loops, right? Which is pretty common. So it was a little bit confusing how I do the loop, but I figured it out without wasting a ton of time. And then I get going, and someone's like, oh, what are you doing here? Like, I'm on my second lap. I'm doing half marathon. She's like, that's not right. And then someone else is like, yeah, that is right. So I go this way, right? Yeah. You're sure? Yeah. Okay. So I go the way she tells me. And then I go another maybe kilometer. And they had like these forest rescue patrol people in these bright red jackets doing like I guess you call it the safety and security, making sure everybody's okay and on the right track. So I just randomly asked one of them, are there a lot of people in front of me? And he goes, no, you're the first one. Seriously? I'm in first? He's like, yeah, I haven't seen any other half marathoners on their second lap. No way. Okay. So I keep going. I'm keep looking back, right? Because there might be someone who is just faster on the second lap and takes me over. But I keep going. I don't even see or hear anybody. I keep thinking I hear someone, but then there's no one there. It's just my own feet, I guess. It's the forest. So I'm going, and then I'm starting to think like, wow, I might actually win first in this. This would be a first. And I get close to the end, and still no one has passed me. And I get up to the end, and you kind of approach the finish line from the wrong side. there's like a little loop that you have to do to go around. That's where they get the extra 100 meters, right? For 21.1 kilometers. That was really confusing because it wasn't marked or anything. They had a person there who was just as confused as me, trying to tell me, oh, you have to go around and run to the finish line. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do. Just tell me which way to go, please. So I go and I cross the finish line. They're like, yeah, congratulations, you got first place. Like, what the heck? Okay, sure. I got first place, and they were doing like all kinds of like photos and stuff. And one of the photographers' camera ran out of battery, so he had me do the running across the finish line again, like breaking through the crossing the finish line. And so I did that again, and then there were more photos, and then the second place runner was about 5 minutes behind me, and then the third place maybe another 3 minutes behind him. So we're there. We've got our signs that say first place, second place, third place. More photos. We've got our medals, and they give us each like this kind of thermos thing as a prize. I got two because I'm in first place. And then they're taking our phone numbers down because they have to contact us to give us our prize money. In my case, it was 800 yuan, which is about $160. So about 4 times the registration fee. So that's cool. That's first. And then they even did interviews with us. So Huawei, I'm sure you know that company. They make all kinds of gadgets and stuff. So they gave me this watch just to borrow. They made that very clear. And then they had me talk about why it's important to have a smartwatch for running trail. So I basically said you need GPS so people can find you, and you also need to know like your heart rate and so on. And that was cool. And then yeah, that was kind of it. They said they'd get in touch, and then someone asked me to send me a screenshot of my route, like when you track your route. So I took a screenshot, and it only said 14 kilometers, but you know, it's out in the middle of nowhere, so the GPS can't catch up, right? That's what happened the weekend before. I ran 22K and it came out as 26K, so it's really inaccurate, right? I think you know where this is going. So I sent that, and then another person is like, oh, where are your wristbands? I don't know what you're talking about. When you go across the finish line, the first lap, they give you a wristband, and then when you go across again, they give you another wristband. Like I've never seen those wristbands before. So just to make sure, I asked someone else, I'm like, what's with the wristbands? They're like, they give you two wristbands at the beginning, and then when you cross the first lap, they take one, and then when you cross the next lap, they take the other one. Okay, it's good that you have your story straight. So I'm getting ready to go, and I look at my watch, I look at my phone, and it says 10:30. So I'm like, half marathon. Normally it takes me just under 2 hours. If I'm doing a trail, it should take like 2 hours and a few minutes, right? Between 2 hours and 2 hours, 10 minutes. 10:30 doesn't feel like I just finished half an hour ago. It feels more like an hour ago. So that gave me kind of a weird vibe. And I'm starting to suspect that there's something wrong. So I keep thinking about it. And then I look at my route, and there was nothing wrong with it. It said very clearly 14 kilometers. And then I look at the route on the description. Like when you sign up, it tells you all the details, right? The race details. And there was a loop missing from the middle of it. Like, what the heck? So that loop was probably 3.5 kilometers, right? I'm looking at it, and it matches perfectly except for that little loop. So I'm thinking, like, what the heck could that have been? And then the more I thought about it, the clearer it became. That crossroads where it said 21 kilometers go straight and 10 and 5 go left was wrong. The sign was marked wrong. It makes perfect sense because I took the same route both times, and both times I missed that loop. If the 10K does one loop and then 21K does two loops, then it should be the exact same route, right? But it made a split, so I ended up taking a 7K route and did that twice. And in retrospect, the person who was at the fork in the road on the second lap, he had kind of a weird look in his eye, like kind of embarrassed. And the sign was down on the ground, which was kind of weird at the time. And there was something on it. So I thought maybe it just kept falling over or something like that. But it's pretty obvious to me that they found the mistake and then they set it down so that people wouldn't take photos of it or whatever. And by that time, it was kind of too late to tell us. So instead of telling me on my second lap, he just didn't say anything. And then he didn't want me to like lash out at him, right? It wasn't his fault. His job was just to stand there. And the people who were behind me, the second so-called the fake second and fake third place, they obviously did the same thing too, because to run a half marathon in an hour and a half is very fast. Like for even a road race, you're probably either in the top 10 or like first or second, depending on how many people there are. But they weren't going particularly fast at the end. And for a light trail run, they would have to be going pretty fast the whole time to actually do it in that time. So I'm very certain that there was a group of people, not just me, who did a half marathon. It's kind of like that infamous Star Wars line. This is the ship that did the Kessel run in less than 12 parsecs. Parsec sounds like a unit of time, but it's actually a unit of distance. So yeah, I did a half marathon in 14K. That's fast. And among the people who did the half marathon wrong, I was definitely the fastest one. So I was number one. Yeah, and as soon as I found out exactly what the mistake was, I immediately told the organizers that uh, I revoked my placement. Yeah, because yeah, it's just not cool. And yeah, the funny thing was that they didn't come out and just admit that it was a mistake. They said, "Oh yeah, you ran you missed the loop in the middle on your second lap," which is already problematic because I did the same route both times, right? So like, where did you get that conclusion if it's wrong? Yeah, and if I didn't even know about the wristbands, then that's a problem too. Yeah, so there are all kinds of problems from start to end, and not just organizational ones. They should be able to admit that it was a mistake, right? So it's more than just disorganization. Yeah, so that's my first experience winning a race, and then first experience realizing that I didn't actually win a race. So it was kind of like a dream where it just happens for a while and then you wake up and it's over. It was like that. I got to experience what it's like to win first place. And it was very exciting. It was fun. And I hope I can do it for real someday without cheating unintentionally.
Wow. Uh, Without cheating unintentionally?
Yeah. At first, I was kind of like, I guess, just the disappointment of not having actually won made me feel like
Mhm.
I'd rather just do a half marathon and get like 20th or 30th place or whatever and
Right.
actually do it rather than make people think that I was the fastest and then it turns out yeah. And if they announced that I was the winner and they didn't even check the wristbands, like the more you think about it, the more problems there are. They didn't check the wristbands until like half an hour later after they had already like done the award ceremonies. Yeah, so many problems. It was fun though. Yeah, so um,
The
at the time I
pictures
thought
from.
I'd rather just do the race and not win. But then later I thought, this was definitely a different experience. So I don't regret it happening this way.
Wow. Yeah,
Kind
that's
of a silly
memorable.
story.
So
Yeah,
did
more
they
memorable.
upload the photos from the award experience? Or sorry, from the award ceremony? Did they upload the photos of that?
I didn't look for any official announcement or anything.
Oh.
I told them like an hour after it ended that I didn't actually win. So I don't think so. Because they need time to confirm all the times, right? After it
Right.
finishes.
And did they ever find out who actually won?
I didn't ask. It was a total mess though, so
Yeah.
I don't know. I hope whoever actually won actually gets the prize money and they don't just keep it. But in a way, I hope they do just keep it and make it better next year.
Well, not to be a conspiracy theorist, but that's a good cover-up if you want to embezzle some money.
Oh, we did the prize winners wrong. This
Oops.
2,000 yuan in prize money, which is about 400 bucks, is all ours. It's quite
Oh,
the Ponzi scheme.
yes. That's memorable. But yeah, like you said, it's believable because the trail GPS on a trail is rarely completely accurate. So at first you can say, "Oh
Yeah.
no, this the phone is probably wrong," but then you realize, "Oh no, it could be the people are wrong too."
Yeah, the signs were starting to pile up.
Yeah, pile up and be pushed face down on the ground as well.
Yeah. That's how I felt. Like falling face down on the ground. Okay, that's my
Wow.
story. And that's it for this episode. Who are our sponsors this week?
Our first sponsor, we'd like to give a big thank you to Hats with Circular Long Brims.
And our other sponsor, Fake Champions.
Pig champions, my friends.
We aren't the champions.
We'll keep on
Cheating
kudos.
till the end.